That's one thing as an entrepreneur that I think we're bad at, that we really need to improve at, is sharing our failures, sharing our struggles. But we all know in between successes is failures and struggles.
Hello, Millionaire University. Welcome back to the show. Are you ready to learn about the real estate business? Yep, I said that correctly. Real estate, not real estate. Today we're bringing on Garr Russell, who turned purchasing his very first RV, which was actually a failure, into a thriving, successful business where he now manages RVs all across the nation. It is one of those beautiful illustrations of how we can take a supposed failure and turn it into something that blesses so many other people. Because the situation Garr found himself in was one that many, many people find themselves in. So if you're listening to this, you may be sitting there with an RV in your own driveway and find the need to utilize his business, and you may be intrigued by the fact that you can actually replicate this exact business model by franchising with him. So let's get into today's masterclass, where you can get into how to have a thriving real estate business with Garr Russell. Class is in session.
I'm a serial entrepreneur. My first business was fifth grade, pushing lawnmowers, or actually paying kids in the neighborhood to push lawnmowers, which blew my dad's mind. He called me lazy. He thought, well, pay other kids to push mowers. I'm like, yeah, Dad, I'm a businessman. I got to go out and get the contracts, And so I started there and all kinds of business ventures. Some of them where I call my BC ventures, before Christ. I'm a huge believer that you're born an entrepreneur. Like, that gift is in you from the day you're born. So one of my other entrepreneur ventures was I was a really good drug dealer. I was very good at, the organizing drug homes and stuff like that. And we'll skip over that one, though. I don't like to stay on that one too much.
Yeah.
Fast forward into, I had a credit counseling company for a little over a decade. Like a lot of businesses start, you're in a moment of pain and then it turns into purpose. After I was done with my drug dealing days and I gave my life to the Lord in 2003, well, I had this horrible credit to fix up. And so what did I do? I started learning about credit and negotiating settlements and building credit and debts and all. And a credit counseling company birthed out of that. And I had that company for over a decade, sold that, and it's still running today. And then my now company is RV rentals. And that was born out of pain as well. I bought my wife an RV for our 10-year wedding anniversary. And she was 7 months pregnant with number 4, chasing a toddler around. And she was miserable. And she decided she was going home when we had just gotten to a campground. And so there I sat by myself around the campfire, feeling like a loser. And I threw our RV up on Craigslist for rent. Fast forward, we've got, about 45 franchises now across the nation with hundreds of RVs that we manage.
Wow, talk about a change from one situation to the next. And that was a lot of really intriguing background. And I think it just goes to show, like you said, a lot of us, we're born entrepreneurs and we're creators. And you've had to go through, it sounds like a pretty intense journey to land where you are right now. And it's come with a lot of lessons, and there's so much growth that can happen even in the crazy times, the times we want to skip over. I'm sure that you wouldn't have the capacity you have now had you not gone through some of those things. So thanks for being vulnerable and opening us up to what it is that brought you here today. So thanks again for that. Can we dive into, we leapt from buying an RV, being in a campground alone, to now having a very successful RV business. Can you give us a little snapshot into what that business growth has looked like?
Yeah, just like any other business, it starts with that idea, just taking some action and movement towards bringing that to life. And so really after I started renting my RV, I do real estate as well and stuff. So I have a real estate background and I saw my RV was renting out well. And I thought, man, I could do this with other people's RVs, And so I started asking like friends and family members if they wanted me to rent out their RVs. And some said, oh yeah, that's amazing. That sounds great. And then my sister-in-law said, no, that's gross. Someone's not sleeping in the bed of my camper. Like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I'm not doing that. And so I learned that you have two people typically when you present this opportunity. They're like, yeah, that's great. This is sitting around doing nothing. Or no, that's gross. Someone's not sleeping in my bed. And so it kind of went from there. We just started growing and scaling, and I created a business in a box. I thought, you know what, this is something that's duplicatable. I'd done it with my credit counseling company. Ran into the right person who was intrigued with kind of what we were doing. I thought, well, here you go. Here's this business in a box. Why don't you be my, beta test and try it out and see what you think? That was our second official location, and they're still with us today. A lot of learning, ups and downs. I was literally just listening to Jim Rohn before we jumped out here out on a bike ride, and he was talking about like there's no such thing as failure. You're literally it's just all learning. If you continue on, you're not failing. And so lots of continuing on throughout the years and learning right and wrong ways to do things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So can we get even into, you mentioned locations. So you started out, what did it, to go from yours to multiple people, how long was that time period and what did that look like? And what are some of the things you had to refine even in managing? So was it more of like a property management of RVs, or was it buying a bunch of RVs and renting out multiple RVs? What did that look like?
So, as entrepreneurs, we're all in when we get excited about something. So what I did is fast forward a couple months, my wife is having Isabella, number 4, and all of our kids were born on C-sections. So it's like very structured and organized. Like you go check in and then 2 hours later, you're back in the room. So I'm building this up to defend myself for what I did after she had Isabella. So I get my wife checked into the room and she's all set. I'm like, all right, love, you're good. Okay, I'll be right back. She's like, oh, where are you going? I'm like, well, I'm going to the dealership. I just bought 4 more RVs, so I'll be right back. And literally as I'm driving there and thinking about this, I heard the Lord tell me other people's RVs. And being, the skull thick-headed guy that I am, I still went and bought them. But then I learned quickly after, like, that's not scalable to just go out and purchase all these RVs because it's different than real estate. An RV depreciates, real estate appreciates. The model was OPRV, other people's RVs. And I quickly learned under that model, there's millions and millions of RVs sitting around the country doing nothing. So it was very easy to take that model and scale without, having to do a bunch as far as loans and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So what is the time period on this? Because I know when we had COVID, there was like a huge boom and surgence of people wanting to travel, wanting to buy RVs. We even, I think, we didn't buy one, but we discovered outside of just the lot, that's a local business where you can go rent an RV. There's now this almost Airbnb situation for RVs that you can be that middleman. So first of all, what time period were we at? And then I want to explore even more the foundation of what the business model looked like.
Yeah, so we started this business in 2016. COVID was definitely an interesting time for us. Right when COVID hit, I'm scrolling Facebook and I see an article that says top 10 CEOs wish they would have done in 2008. And the number one thing they said was they wish they would have laid off their staff sooner. Like they just thought, well, this will pass. And so I went and I laid off all my staff. Right after that happened, I get a call from a power company in Michigan. They need 72 RVs for mobile quarantine units for all their engineers at their power plants. And then it just went from there. It was just insane. Then it was mobile quarantine units, getting grandma and grandpa back from Florida to New York and all these different things. And then everybody bought an RV during COVID. I mean, there was just an amazing spike in sales and everybody's traveling. And then that just became the thing to do. And then too, rewind back to God telling me other people's RVs. What happened during that, right at the beginning of COVID as well, several of my competitors went out of business because they had this massive inventory of RVs and they had all the overhead, all the insurance and loans, payments and everything. And there was a shutdown just long enough to where, they didn't know what was going to happen and they closed down. So that kind of cleared some of the playing field for me as well. And then it just spiraled from there. Now, fast forward to today, we've got people all over reaching out to us that have bought RVs during COVID saying, hey, I have this RV. I owe way more on it than it's worth. I can't sell it. Would you rent it out for me to help me pay the principal down? So out of that, we birthed a program called the P3 Principal Paydown Program to help people meet that need. So it's been amazing to see how this business flowed through COVID all the way back to the start.
Yeah, I'm super intrigued by this. So I want to really understand for everybody listening and for myself. You mentioned during C-section time, you're on your way, you end up still buying 4 RVs. So take us from that moment in time to heeding that call, to using other people's RVs, and just infrastructure-wise, what does this business look like? What did you do with those 4? Did you have a physical location? How are you marketing this? Let's just go into the deep nitty-gritty of what a business model like this looks like.
You meet the biggest need in front of you. So when we started, it was Literally, we had RVs parked in our yard. And then it got to a point of where I had some neighbors complaining. So I had to go get a special use variance. And I lived out in the country too. I didn't realize how many neighbors I had until I showed up to that hearing there for the special variance. I'm like, oh, wow, it's great to meet all you guys. I didn't know I had so many neighbors. And then I just kind of shut that down because I thought, man, if so many people are this upset, So then we moved to a parking lot that we rented. And then we moved to a building. And it's so cool how as you scale a business, how you just see the next opportunity and the next opportunity. And it ended up growing to the point of where we had this massive property. We were offering storage, propane. We had dump station. We had RV techs on staff. And we were servicing our rental fleet plus servicing the general public on repairs. And then we were selling RVs on consignment. And so just kind of, one thing leads to the next, and you kind of see the next opportunity and the next in front of you. And all the normal things for a business start taking place, right? Like, okay, now we need software. Okay, now we need a system. Now we need the processes. Now we need to start to separate the business into, okay, who's in charge of marketing? Who's in charge of customer service? Who's in charge of the bookkeeping? And that was just kind of one thing to the next. Now, we just have this massive team and locations all around the country. It's pretty amazing how it's all unfolded.
Yeah. So you had to have that physical location to house the RVs. Some of them were yours. How many were yours that you actually purchased? And then where did you what was the pitch for people who had RVs using other people's RVs? What did it start to look like with your overhead and building out the infrastructure that way?
Yeah, a handful were mine. And then we would start to buy and sell them as well. You get people that they just want out of their RV. So you pick it up for a good price, rent it for a little bit and sell it. But then, the main model was really the other people's RVs. And that's the beauty of that model is they're paying to store it when it's not being rented. So that's covering your overhead of your property. And a lot of our franchises, they actually just partner with storage units. So they literally have zero overhead of like a brick and mortar to start. They partner with a storage facility. The owner pays for the storage. And then the owner pays for, the regular maintenance, insurance, payments, all that. Then the renter pays for the commercial insurance during the renting. So it's very neat because it's very low overhead. And there's a lot of extra ways to earn money outside of just renting it, like add-ons, like you rent, chairs, and you can rent grills and bikes and all these different things, So it's real interesting how super low overhead and then all the other opportunities to monetize it. And then, several of our franchisees, husband-wife teams, they've quit their corporate jobs. Now the husband's a certified RV repair tech, working on RVs and renting. We've got several franchises that are dealerships, and then they plug this into their existing model. We've got franchises now that we're partnering with to purchase real estate, kind of like a Chick-fil-A kind of setup where we own the real estate together and stuff. And it is very interesting how, as you just, like Tony Robbins says, take massive action and you just kind of see where it leads you.
Yeah, it sounds like you've taken massive action. So what is the time frame that we've looked at from, you said 2016, when did the franchise model step in, or when did you decide to go that route? And was it you had multiple locations first where you started with this initial lot where you started renting out? And was that the primary, I guess before we get into that, was it primarily at that time in the early stages, mostly just renting out RVs for short-term rentals? And then a little bit of the monetization was on the storage and then being able to keep it there. Is that kind of where it started? The simplest business model? Yeah,
it started with our core offer there of the RV rentals. Yeah. And then it kind of spurred into other things. And then as far as when we became a franchise, I believe it was right around COVID when we went through the process. It's a long process. It's a lot of money. It takes about a year and about six figures to become a franchise. I'm glad we did it. At first, I was really resistant to it, but I'm glad we did it in hindsight because it helps with credibility. It's regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. There's a lot of benefits to it because you're literally just cutting a paycheck for success. I mean, you're buying into the proven systems and branding and all the different things.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, very beneficial.
Yeah. I almost want to kind of approach this a little bit to showing that benefit as we could walk through. If you were to tell somebody right now exactly how to build the business that you've built from the ground up, what that would look like. So just walking us through maybe 5 steps that it would take to growing a business model like this one, so that even by the end of this, you can see like, yeah, there is some major advantage to just buying into the franchise and having these things set up. So just, I know we've talked a little bit kind of here and there about what this timeline has looked like and what you did, but if I was coming in with basically nothing, let's even tap on some of the things you wish you would have done differently. You said you were thick-headed, you bought the RVs, you should have just leveraged other people's. So I'm coming into this brand new. Walk me through what that would look like and what you'd recommend starting this all over again today.
That's interesting. We've been talking about that a lot lately in some of our marketing, because one of the things about entrepreneurship is, honestly, I would almost say it's like a pride factor of somebody wanting to build something of their own, which is great to want to do that and to have the freedom from a 9 to 5 and a boss to have telling you what to do and all those things. But then when it comes to building a business, especially nowadays, like you can plug into proven systems and models through franchises. You can plug into communities and mentorship and all those things already, instead of having to go through the school of hard knocks. I mean, the amount of money that I spent to learn the different styles of marketing and branding and operations and go through the different softwares and systems and learn how to hire and train and keep employees and just all the different things of keeping books and reconciling books and figuring out, okay, what did it cost to get this customer and what's the lifetime value of this customer? All these different areas of a business that really are supposed to know as an entrepreneur. That doesn't need to be done nowadays. You can find a business model that is attractive to you and your goals and your lifestyle, and you can literally just plug into it. I kind of equate it to going to college, right? I don't know what college costs nowadays, but say our franchise offering is $50,000. Say somebody spends $50,000 to get an associate's or a bachelor's degree on business. Once they get that degree, that's it. They go out there, and if they want to start a business, they're literally starting from scratch. Their college professor isn't reaching out to them 90 days later to say, hey, how's your business going? Can I look over your business plan? How's your marketing? No, like you're done. Your professor that it actually taught you the business class may have never even owned a business, where you can literally plug into a proven model like, the big ones. I mean, Subway, McDonald's, all these franchise opportunities out there that are literally proven systems with the branding, the marketing, the operations, everything. It's plug and play.
Yeah, I love that. So if they don't go that route, I mean, I even just want to get into the root of your story as well, in terms of what did you have to look for? Was it because you already had the interest into RVing, and so you just stepped into this, you're like, hey, there's an opportunity here. What was the problem that you saw that needed to be solved with developing this business model? Did you see other people had something similar in terms of renting them out, and even the differentiation of like, hey, let's rent out other people's RVs? Where do you feel like that genius really came in of this works far better than some of the other approaches that people are having to an RV business? I know that was like multiple questions in one, so if I need to repeat that, I can.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, the beginning of it was literally just pain, right? It was the pain of me owning an RV and my wife was going home, and it was a brand new RV and I have a monthly payment. That was literally the beginning of it. And then the genius of it, it was the Lord. It was God. It was him saying, hey, other people have RVs sitting around doing nothing. Take those and put them to work. Just like people do with Airbnb arbitrage, or people are doing it with Turo and other people's cars. It's literally the same exact thing. And so while I'd love to take the credit for it, it wasn't me. It was God saying other people's RVs, and then just simply doing the things of, okay, it's other people's RVs, so let me create a little presentation package to share about what we could do and how we could do it. And then just getting that idea out there. And then at the end of the day, it's massive actions, lots of mistakes, learning from mistakes, more massive action. Oh, that worked right. Let me write that down. A couple more mistakes, some more action. And then next thing you know, you've got the systems and process. And then really you start running into the right people, right? You're like, okay, I need somebody to handle all these inquiries that are coming in. That's great with customer service and follow-up and detailed. And so you start seeing that need needs to be filled. And that's one of the things as an entrepreneur, right, is it's hard to let go as we scale. I forget where I heard it. If you can find somebody that can do something 80% as good as you, hand that off to them and then move on to the next. So you're constantly having to say, okay, how can I step back now instead of working in the business? How can I step back now to work on the business, put someone in place and continue to scale? And that's where a lot of businesses get to a certain point and then just stall. They don't take that step of faith once it's okay, now I need to hire somebody or now I need to hire another person.
Yeah. So when you started to approach people, even just going back to that original timeline, and you were saying, hey, we have this opportunity here, you're sitting on an RV, it's not being used, where did you start finding people? Like, were you looking at people who were trying to sell RVs? How did you acquire those customers to even develop that pitch?
Yeah, exactly like you said, finding people that were selling them, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. And then there's different groups, just like if you have Airbnbs or rental properties or whatever, you like to crochet, there's Facebook groups for all that stuff, So just joining in groups. So just like there's Airbnb for renting your house, for renting RVs, there's platforms, rvshare.com, outdoorsy.com. There's a couple of the big platforms there. So just getting involved in the Facebook groups for that environment and just interacting and sharing thoughts and ideas. And then, and really just trying to add value into those groups. And, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what, this is what's working, what's not working. And that's literally how we launched a lot of our locations, was just being inside of these groups, providing a lot of value and kind of mentoring people and showing them what we're doing, what's working with the entrepreneurial experience that I had. And then that's how we were able to get RVs and also get entrepreneurs that partnered with us to be part of the Fireside family.
So were they able to still, you're in groups where people are doing that, maybe some of them already renting them out. So were they able to do both? Were they able to put their RV on your location and then also have it listed on a site? Or did you guys also have the virtual option where you were basically migrating them over, saying, hey, rather than list on these other sites, list on ours and we will do a lot of the things for you? Like, where was the limit and the extent of what you guys provided?
Yeah, so we work side by side with the platforms because they're a peer-to-peer marketing platform, and our offering is we're an RV rental management company. So RV Share, which is the Airbnb of the RV industry, we're their number one customer. So we work very closely with them because they spend millions of dollars in marketing and generating rental leads. And so we stick in our lane, which is RV rental management. And that's also another good lesson, in entrepreneurship is what is your niche? What are you doing? Stick to that. Don't try to do everything for everyone all the time. There's a really good book about that called 10X is Easier Than 2X. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
By Benjamin Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I got to see him speak a couple of times, and I got that book. I was with him in Mexico when he first released the pre-release of that book, and he spoke on it. And it's real powerful find what is generating the majority of your revenue and then focus on that and then cut out everything else. So we decided right from the beginning, we're not going to try to compete with the RV shares, the Airbnbs. We're going to work alongside them, and our niche is going to be RV rental management. That's the lane we're going to stick in. Okay.
So when people come and they start the franchise, that's primarily the focus. I just want to make sure I was wrapping my head around what the business model is. So when I step in and I start this, I'm not necessarily doing all of the groundwork that you did on establishing that. When I join or start the franchise, what does that look like for me? Like, what is the work going to be that I'm going to do stepping into it?
Yeah, so you're literally just, plugging into our system. So when somebody signs up to be a franchise with Fireside, they basically go into our onboarding sequence. We have what's called the Fireside Fast Track Framework portal they log into. It's got all the everything from step one of setting up your LLC and getting your EIN to helping set up your location. We set up your website for you. We manage that. We manage your social media. We get you trained on how to talk the lingo of the business, the different areas of operations that you're going to need to hire for, cleaners, drivers, RV repair techs. And then literally we're just walking you through step by step exactly what needs to happen. And then really once you get a location, which typically you're partnering with a storage facility, then we're helping you reach out to RV owners and start to present the business model, which is great because it's not like you're going to reach out to an RV owner and they're like, oh my gosh, you're like the fifth person this week who wants to rent out my RV for you. No, it's one of my mentors, Russell Bronson, calls it, it's a blue ocean. It's a completely brand new concept to them. So they're either blown away, like, yeah, here's the keys. It's just sitting here doing nothing. Or they're my sister-in-law who doesn't want them sleeping in their bed.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I was going to ask that next is when it comes to acquiring people? It sounds like if there's not a lot of competition out there with helping people, have you found the response to be, I know you said there's kind of two different responses there, but have you seen an uptick in this? Like you said, with COVID, everybody buying RVs, and now there's so many people, there's an excess of the RVs and people seeing the advantage. And even if I'm an RV owner, what do you feel like the primary appeal is for me also in terms of like, yes, I can make some money, but do you pitch the advantage of not having to manage the whole experience too? Like, is that kind of the appeal versus just, hey, I'm going to throw this up on Airbnb, call it good, and have to do all of those things?
Yeah. So for the owners, really, it's a brand new idea that's being presented to them. So if somebody is reaching out to us, then obviously they're already familiar with the concept and looking into it. It's gotten to the point now where we only take RVs typically if we get full-time possession of them, because there's so many RVs out there. And if someone uses that 2, 3, 4 times a year, we won't take them into our management program because we can be that picky. But then as far as presenting the value to the owner, typically most owners just look at it as, okay, great, this will cover my payment and maybe make me some money. But there's really so much more to it, because what happens is now that this RV has become really a business for them, now they get to write off the insurance and the interest on the payment and the maintenance and the storage. And on top of that, with IRS tax code, they get to depreciate it now. So now this is offsetting their tax liability, just like a piece of real estate would. So there's an educational process in there that takes place, and it really blows owners away. Like, oh my gosh, this isn't just going to help me get this thing out of my driveway that's sitting here doing nothing. This could potentially make me some money. It's definitely saving me money, at least from paying it off, and then all these other benefits. So yeah, it's pretty eye-opening to them when they hear about all the benefits of that. And we have RV owners that literally are just like, take the keys. Like, I don't want to see this thing again. Just put it to work. And then you get those funny stories where someone will reach out to us. It's like a retired couple. Like, yeah, we bought an RV. We just retired and we were on the road for 2 weeks, and we decided we need to give this to you guys because we don't want to get a divorce. We learned we're not RVers and it's not working for us. And, the funny random stories like that,
Yeah. Well, I can definitely attest to that. I would probably be one of those stories for sure. I get the wild hair of the idea of like, wouldn't it be great? And then I thankfully can think through the logistics. I have 3 young kids and how long that would really be fun. And I'm sure I would be here's the keys, take it off my hands. I don't want to do this anymore. So it's great that you're providing that opportunity for people who have maybe a midlife crisis or a retirement crisis, and then they change their mind, because it's a huge investment buying an RV. We're not talking even the level of a car that you can Turo out. We're talking a huge thing that you can spend multiple 6 figures on even. So are most of the customers that you guys, I mean, you're obviously, that is your client, is a little bit of both. It's the people wanting to rent out and the people who you're going to manage the RVs for, primarily the people who own them. So is most of the time you are taking the keys and they are going to, you're parking it on a lot. That's most of the time going to be the case.
Yeah. Yep. Most of the time they're handing it off. And if it's like one of our southern locations or year-round locations, California, Arizona, Florida, we get people from all around the country that they could be in New York and they want to send it down to Florida and just, here, take it, make me as much money as you can.
Yeah.
It's just sitting here doing nothing.
Yeah. Do those people still have the option to use them when they want? Like, or are they kind of just handing it over as an asset?
Yeah, they're definitely able to use them if they want. Most people that don't. It's kind of like a timeshare. Unfortunately, they bought it on a whim or COVID or whatever, or they bought it like a timeshare thinking, oh my gosh, this is great, we're going to use it. And then they realize they only have 2 weeks of vacation a year, and Timmy's in softball and this and that and all the different things. And
yeah. So you mentioned a little bit of like, there's so many opportunities in here for further upsells, further services that can be provided. You've mentioned some of those. Are there any others that you could tell us about that you have seen in expansion of buying the franchise or even just the business model in general?
Yeah, so really the RV rental management is, in my mind, it's really the starting point. Because what I like to do with my franchises is I want to help them create something that's generational, something they can leave to their children, generational wealth. And so the next step really is to own the real estate where you're operating your company out of and have the storage. So now you're building passive income to where that's paying for your property, it's generating income, and it's there doing its thing. And then, there's so many other opportunities in the RV space. You can sell RVs for people on consignment. If you don't like paying your realtor, they're a 6% commission. an RV consignment sales, the commission is typically 10 to 15% that you get. There's a great commission that can be earned there. Yeah, the propane and the dump stations and the detailing and lots of other things. Yeah, selling warranties, parts, all that stuff.
Wow. That's super intriguing. Let's talk a little bit about marketing. Is this mostly a cold sale, cold approach type of thing, or is this something where you've seen success in marketing through advertising? What has been the primary channel that you guys have been able to accrue most of those customers?
I'm pretty old school, bootstrap, guerrilla marketing. So at the end of the day, in the simplest form, you're just trying to get in front of somebody that owns an RV. So you can do that easily through Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, RV Trader. And then after that, really the biggest part is not getting in front of the owner. It's just convincing them to give you their RV, which that's the beauty of what we've created here with the Fireside community is they go onto our website and they can see we're a nationwide company registered with the Federal Trade Commission, federally trademarked. So it's a pretty easy sale after that. So we do some marketing as far as like retargeting ads if somebody clicks on our website and stuff like that, but not much outside of that.
Yeah. And then on the consumer end, I guess, of people wanting to rent the RVs, what is that looking like as well? Like, are you guys doing a lot of that marketing for the rental of the actual RV?
We get a decent amount of business directly to our website and to our social media and stuff like that. But majority of our initial customers come through the rental platforms, come through RV Share and Outdoorsy. And then once they've come through that platform and they're in our environment, then we're working hard to make sure they're staying a customer of ours, So we've got email marketing campaigns and newsletters and social media stuff and different things like that we do to make sure, we're keeping them as a longtime customer. That's one of the things that a lot of, entrepreneurs, the mom and pop small businesses, a lot of stuff that they don't do, they're trying to get through the day of running their business and they're not thinking about business, 3, 6, 12 months down the road or walking somebody up your value ladder and presenting them with, other offers to buy and things like that. So that's one of the cool things about being part of a franchise is corporately, we handle a lot of that for our franchisees as far as, staying in front of the customer and presenting them ideas like, hey, you went camping this summer. Why don't you go camping this fall? Go for trick-or-treating at a campground. And here's a state park you could visit and, different things you could do there. So
awesome. Well, it's great that you can do that. I guess that would be a spin-off question because I know a lot of times when you have that third party that you're actually getting the customer through, they don't allow you to market. So that's not so much the case with these rental platforms. Once they become a customer of yours, you are able to continue to remarket to them and develop that client relationship.
Well, yeah, once they come through the platform, we pay them, their commission to generate us the booking, just like with my Airbnbs, I do the same thing. But then once I'm connected with the consumer and I have their contact information, we put them into our CRM and send them the email newsletter and the different things like that, a text, and engage them on social media. So yeah, that's definitely a great way to capitalize on that customer instead of just waiting for the next one to be fed to you.
Yeah. So with your clients, do you have people who are coming in and saying, you know what, this is so great, I'm just going to buy a few more RVs, give them to you, have you rent them out? Or are you seeing primarily this being a rescue mission where most of them are like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Is there some good profitability on their end to be able to rent these RVs out and you have people coming in and continuing to scale in that way as just the owner?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have investors that'll come in and purchase units. Sometimes they'll do it just for the depreciation. Just that because they can take that depreciation over 2 to 5 years and they can escalate it if they want to offset their taxes. We actually just had our first dealership sign up. It's a full-blown RV dealership. They signed up. They're going to be putting new inventory, renting it out, monetizing it for so long, depreciating it, and then turning around and selling it as used inventory. So yeah, it's definitely something that could be done from either side as far as an investment. Or, if it's an RV that's just sitting around, yeah. So, yeah, we do have both.
Yeah. I don't know if we've mentioned this yet, and it's really creative, the name of what you do, the wheel estate, wheel estate industry. I love that there's such a combination of so many different industries, because even what you just mentioned, I'm like, so it's a lease, right? We're leasing an RV, and then we're able to sell it after we've paid off that initial investment or have that depreciation value. There's so many different advantages here from every single angle. It feels like a very win-win-win-win situation where you're solving problems at so many different layers. You're helping investors, you're helping people who have bought something that they want to use. There's just so much growth. And I love that you franchised it out so people can tap into that power as well and step into something that's working and continue that mission, because it really is serving so many different people. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, and it's cool too for the renters, right? People can try RVs before they buy them, or, a lot of the younger generations, they just want experiences. So they get to rent them and have their experiences. And yeah, you'd be amazed. And two, really, it's real estate. So the interesting thing about this that, I didn't think of this when I started this, but we have insurance companies that rent RVs from us for temporary housing. We have festivals, equestrian events, corporate events. During COVID, we had a contract with the NFL. They were renting RVs when they started doing football again to do mobile COVID testing stations before people that worked at the stadiums could go inside. And it's a house on wheels, so that it literally is so many different facets of how it can be applied.
Do you guys do more than just RVs? Are you doing fifth wheel trailers? Is there a good variety in inventory, or is it a pretty standard unit that you're willing to work with?
No, we have fifth wheels, travel trailers, class A's, B's, C's. Yep, we got all the different styles.
That's awesome.
We have some that are more popular than others, like the bunkhouse style travel trailers are very popular, for families that are going. They've got their campground that they're going to, and then they need a bunkhouse style camper for it.
You seem like a pretty optimistic guy. I mean, we're talking about the business. It's very it's great. It's no nonsense. It's just, it feels like things have really clicked into place and that you look at this with such an optimistic lens. Has it always been that way? Has this been a challenging business to grow? It seems from talking to you, it sounds like a really fun business that's just one step in front of the other has continued to expand. Did you have a vision for what it could become when you initially started? What has transformed for you as an entrepreneur? Would you say this is your biggest business success that you've had throughout the years?
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't have this long-term vision. When I first started, it was called Michigan Camper Rental. And then we signed up our first location outside of Michigan. So I changed it to the Camper Connection. And then we got federally trademarked, and that was an infringement there. So then we had to rebrand again to Fireside RV Rental. So yeah, I definitely did not see it growing as big as it is today, for sure. There's definitely obstacles, for sure, dealing with people and personalities, and you try something and too, dealing with customers. It's not all beautiful memories for every renter. You get someone who walks into a camper and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a fly in here. This thing is horrible. I want all my money back, and you ruined my family's trip. And so you get those especially during COVID, people that were used to traveling overseas and doing these illustrious vacations, their option was to RV. So we had people that really loved it and they connected with the outdoors, people that thought it was horrible. And yeah, there's definitely always roadblocks and bumps in the road that you walk into as an entrepreneur. It's just keeping that positive attitude and saying, okay, I know this isn't going to matter 30 days from now or 90 days from now, or heck, probably even next week. And so just continuing to just stay positive. Obstacle is just an opportunity to learn, and you learn and you grow and go from there, and everything's going to work out. Like my grandma says, this too shall pass.
Yeah. I love that. It's an important sentiment when you're a business owner of any capacity, because it is a roller coaster and it is a journey, and it can be one of the hardest things that you do, but it refines you as a person as well, which is super powerful. Can we talk a little bit about that and the personal journey? Because I know that you also have a book that is incredibly great. And can you talk a little bit about that and that journey of sharing your story and what we can expect from your book?
Yeah. So the real estate story, it's my entrepreneurial journey, and it's not just the good times. I forget my caption on it, but I think it's faith, failure, and fun times or something like that. That's one thing as an entrepreneur that honestly, just as a human being, that I think we're bad at, that we really need to improve at, is sharing our failures, sharing our struggles. For my Christian entrepreneurs, sharing our sins. It is so easy to just share your successes, but we all know in between successes is failures and struggles. During COVID, one of my failures that I had was I got super passive in my business. I started drinking a bunch. I'm an extrovert and the world shut down, and I was drinking and being very passive in my business. And I literally almost lost it. God really protected me. I had to sell about 80% of my real estate to keep my business afloat. I had a bunch of properties I had to sell to keep my business afloat. And God brought me through it, and I learned some valuable lessons. And it's so cool learning. The more that I share those struggles and failures and stuff, the more you realize other people are saying, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that, because I've been there, or I am there, or my spouse is there, or whatever. And then we're able to encourage each other, and people are able to have hope, because if you don't hear other people's struggles while they're in them or at any point, then how can we have hope if we don't see other people are going through the stuff that we're going through, or to see that there is a way through? So that's a lot of what my book is about, is sharing the struggles. And then also a big thing in my book is talking about the term entrepreneur, because I feel like there's so many people out there that they're an entrepreneur. I believe that we're born an entrepreneur. The Bible verse that says the gifts and callings of God are without repentance. Kind of like I was sharing with y'all how I was a drug dealer. I had the gift of entrepreneurship inside of me before I was walking with the Lord, and I use it to sell drugs. And then thankfully I got my life on track, and I use that same gifts. But a lot of people have those gifts inside of them, but they just don't identify that they're an entrepreneur. So in my book, I talk about signals that you're an entrepreneur. If you see business ideas around you, if you see ways to improve things, if you see services that could be better, if you're driving down the road with your spouse and you're pointing out, wow, that could be better like this or that, or, oh, this is a need or that's a need. Those are all indicators that you're an entrepreneur. You just got to push into that more and figure out, okay, what exactly does that look like? So in a nutshell, that's what my book is about.
Love it. I'm excited for anybody listening. If this is an intriguing, not just the business model, but I feel like just to see the journey of what you've personally gone through and experiencing and understanding, there are gifts we have, there are problems around us that we have a unique ability to solve. And if you can tap into that, if you can find your own direction, your own purpose, then you can literally change the world. I think we have a tendency to play very small, but all of us has something that we're here to fulfill. We're all here to do something big. And the quicker you can realize that, the quicker you can get to work and you can make some really cool stuff happen. Well, thank you so much. Where can we learn more about even the RV business that you're doing, your book, and all of the good things if we want to continue to follow along with you?
Yeah, you can download a free copy of my book at myrealestatestory.com, or you can find it on Amazon if you like to hold it in your hands and underline stuff. I think it's on Audible as well. And then if you want to learn more about our RV rental business, that's firesidervrental.com. You can go on there and learn about signing up your RV. You can rent an RV. You can learn about our franchise opportunity as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Garr, for coming on and sharing all of this with us. It's been wonderful to talk to you. Anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
Faith over fear has been my big message lately, is keep pressing on. If you're a business owner, just keep taking massive action. Don't look at it as failure. Look at it as a learning opportunity. And then if you're listening to podcasts like this and you're not a business owner, well, you should be a business owner, because the simple fact that you're on a podcast like this, searching out how to grow wealth, how to grow yourself, how to start a business, is all indicators that you are meant to be an entrepreneur. So start taking some action towards that.
Love it. Thanks again so much. It's been great to chat with you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Garr and our other show sponsors for this episode today. There are so many amazing ways that we can take some of our greatest mistakes and turn them into our greatest triumphs. And today's episode was the perfect example of that. Sometimes we fall into the trap of wanting to have the entire picture laid out for us on what success is going to look like, how we're going to make $1 million. And at the end of the day, it's really about solve a problem and then solve another problem and keep moving forward until you've created solutions that you didn't even know needed to be created. And a lot of times it's really going to start from solve your own problem. What do you wish existed? What do you wish was out there in the marketplace that doesn't exist? Or how can you do something like that better than what is out there? If you're ready to start your own business or grow the current business that you have, sign up for our free business course with over 300 new business ideas at millionaireuniversity.com/training. And make sure you give our guests a shout out on social media and let us know what you enjoyed the most about today's episode. Until the next one, class is officially dismissed.